up, everybody? Welcome back to Calcio Culture. This is Vos here, and we got Motts on the horn as well. Logs is out sick, unfortunately. He's always got an excuse. This is just another one. But Motts, was a good weekend of footy. Great weekend of Calcio. How are you doing?
It was a great weekend of Calcio. I'm doing very good. Little information for the Paisans. Actually, Logs and I both got sick shortly after we recorded last week's episode. Went to a bar, watched the Liverpool City game last Sunday, got food poisoning. I bounced back. Log parlayed that into potentially laryngitis. So little health update for you right there. But I'm doing well and excited for this episode.
Boys are down bad. I'm not. I'm doing great, actually. I had a great weekend. I watched a ton of games. I watched some La Liga. I watched some EPL. Watched a ton of Calcio. So it was a great weekend for me. But today, guys, business as usual for us. We're talking match week number 15. We're talking a little bit of Coppa Italia that we missed last week. Then we're talking Champions League, Europa League, Conference League. I think I missed Coppa Italia in the lesson. I mean, that
plan.
I think we got to add that in. And then we're talking match week 16.
Coppa Italia is here.
We have Coppa Italia this week. I don't know. We can't.
Wow.
I don't think we can with Champions League. So there might be a break there. But before that, we don't have quick shots today. We've got something else because Logs isn't here. So me and Mats, we'd mix it up a little bit.
We do. First things first, we're going to do a check-in on the Colpi de Luna. Wanted to give everyone an update. It's been extremely hot as of the 10th game. As I mentioned, 10 games into the season, things start to become more predictable. The season technically starts. And since then, we have been on a heater. We are 7-2 in the last 9. We went 2-1 last week. Me and Bose hit our legs. Logs unfortunately missed it by a goal, I believe. But it's starting to heat up. So people should be riding these picks because if you have been taking them individually, you are 7-2 in your last 9.
Yeah, that's pretty good. 7-2
so good.
is very good.
That's almost non-repeatable form.
No, that's almost non-repeatable form.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, we've got a tally going at this point. So
we do have a tally.
If we can actually repeat it.
Yeah, so checking in on the tally of individuals, I am on a hot streak. I've hit 4 in a row now. I've hit 5 of the last 6, and overall, I am 6-7. Vos is doing the best right now. He's the only positive one of the group. He has hit 3 in a row, so almost just as hot as me. And overall, he's 9-8.
I will caveat that with I did a solo Colpi, and if we adjust this for solo Colpi and we say that's one loss, I am 9-6, which is really good.
Yes, that is true. However, you can't. So you're taking the wins, but you're not taking the losses.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you wanted to be a hero that weekend. We appreciate it, but you are 9-8. And then Logs is currently riding the struggle bus, but is going to see his way out of that. He is 2 of his last 4 and overall 5-9. So that's how each individual is doing. The Paisan leg has kind of fallen off. We have kind of been slacking on that end. Our bad. However, you're welcome because you guys wouldn't be doing as hot as me and Bose is right now. So we would just be making you look bad.
We're very hot. And if we can hit again, that's 4. Is that 4 weeks in a row where we would have hit? Yeah. 4 match weekends in a row. That'd be nuts.
Me and you. But if Logs can hit, we would hit 2 of the last 5 Colpies, which is pretty good considering it's a 3-leg parlay. But yeah, Colpi's hot. So and that's why we've always said, take them individually and parlay them because obviously it's harder to hit a 3-leg parlay, but an individual record of 7-2 in the last 9, I would say we are officially climbing back we're not in the green yet. I don't think you're in the green, but I think overall we're definitely not there yet, but we're almost there in terms of making people their money back.
What I will say is this is living proof that we've been watching this year and we have been learning what's going on. And now we really know, right? Because the beginning of the season was a fucking shit show. And now, Rick, we kind of know what's going on. Also, you've kind of changed your strategy, but we'll probably talk about that later.
Yeah, I was taking heavy ones before. Now I'm doing more favored. Just did some quick math for you. Overall, we are 20-24. So we're flirting with 50%. Need a couple more weeks, and I think we should be able to get there if we continue to go 2-1, 3-0, like we've been doing lately. I think we should get there by match week 20 by the max. I think we're going to be 50%. That's our goal.
That gives us over a third of the season to just rip too.
Yeah. So Kobe started off poor, but very, very big bounce back in the last 5 match weeks, which you love to see.
Huge. But anyways, guys, this is not a Colby podcast. It is a piece of it. And me and Mott's part of the replacement and quick shots today. We haven't really done a power rankings or a check-in on the table in a while. So we wanted to modify that a little bit and just talk about the Scudetto race as a whole right now, because I think things have really shifted since the last time we talked about this. Honestly, I think it was in like October was the last time we really took a look at the table. And it's different now. I mean, this is the first title race, I think, in several years that has been open to this many teams, right? It's kind of been like a 2-man race, a 3-man race. And at this point, we're kind of in a 5, like you could say 6, 5, maybe 4. And we're going to talk through this right now. But as the table stands right now, Atalanta is in first place on 34 points.
New leader.
Napoli in second with 32. Inter in third with 31 with a game in hand. Lazio in fifth on 31. Juventus in sixth on 27. So that's where we get a little bit of the drop off. And then we are largely just counting them out of the race at this point. And the objective is kind of flipped for Milan and Bologna. They both have 14 matches played. The game in hand is actually against each other because that game got canceled. And they're on 22 points. So that's 12 off the top. And the way the rest of the teams are playing, we just don't really see that as a makeable amount of points, I guess is the right way of saying it. And their objective is kind of flipped to make European ball more than anything.
Well, I think Bologna's objective has always been to make European ball.
That's true.
Probably top 4, right? They weren't saying our goal is winning the Scudetto this year. I think Milan has had to do a little pivot in terms of their goal was probably contend for a Scudetto at the very minimum. Probably not going to do that now unless a lot of these teams at the top of the table really hit the struggle bus later on in the season, which we have seen happen before. So anything's possible. But at this point in time, I'd say it's pretty comfortable that Bologna and Milan's clear-cut objectives now are going to be European spot and hopefully top 4. And then you have Juventus, where I think they're in a very similar boat, but there is not hope for a European spot. Theirs is push for top 4. And if they land 5 or 6, probably disappointed. Milan, you're probably going to be disappointed as well at 5 or 6, but I think at the way the season has gone for them and continues to trend, that's probably where they're going to end up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think Milan and Bologna right now are good, like a good clubs in terms of where they're at in their evolution this year, like good comparison, obviously even on points. And for me, especially with the last couple weeks, Bologna has overtaken Milan for me. I think they've been very good. You can just see Italiano's fingerprints are like now fully on the team. Like at the beginning of the year, they're really good at keeping the ball and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're turning that into creating and scoring 1 to 2 goals, which is really all Italiano wants to do. And we're going to talk about it a little bit in the Coppa Italia. They kind of blew the doors off of Monza, but that's kind of an anomaly for him. And now the other thing is he's getting his guys back. Like Lewis Ferguson is now playing, and Ndoye is hitting that level that we saw last year. Castro's coming into his own. Lukumi's playing a lot better. It just, you go around the team and everybody's playing really well, and they're dangerous. And I still think they're better than Juventus at this point. Obviously, they played this weekend. We're going to talk about that game a little bit.
What makes them better than Juventus?
I just think they have a plan. There's more of a plan to beat more teams than Juventus for me. And then for Milan, it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks of good play, but not getting all the results I would hope they get.
Milan, for me, why I don't think Bologna is better than Juventus at this point. I think Bologna, I would give the nod over Milan. And the reason why is solely because with Bologna, you know what you're going to get every single game. Milan, I don't think you do. Juventus, I think you also know what you're going to get for the most part every game. Milan, it's just like, what am I going to watch today with Milan when they play. You have there's no consistency. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. Their front office, their manager, and their team are all on different pages. With Bologna, you're starting to see everyone is starting to now be on the same page. People are starting to play much better. Italiano's fingerprints are all over this, and they're starting to score goals. That was their problem. That's everywhere Italiano goes. Their problem has always been he can't score that many goals. And Bologna is starting to score goals. However, unfortunately, this past game, they did score. They let in the amount of goals that they scored. But Bologna are trending up. Milan are trending down. And I'd say Juventus are just on a straight line because like I said, you know what you're going to get with Juventus. They're going to possess the ball almost too much and do nothing with it. And you're going to, for the most part, get organized defensively. However, since that loss of Bremer, they have been leaking goals. But for the most part, they're going to have the ball for 60% of the game and defend very, very well and organized. The problem with Juventus is, are they going to score? And it's kind of, we're going to talk about this later, but it's kind of a lack of mentality that they show every now and then. But I wouldn't put Bologna over Juventus yet.
Fair. And Dusan Vlahovic is also a major issue still. No, I'm not going to let that go.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, and that brings us into the real. All these teams have a potential to win it, right? There's 3 points between Atalanta, Napoli, Inter, Fiorentina, and Lazio. Inter and Fiorentina have a game in hand which is against each other, and they're even on points. For you, Motts, who is your favorite right now?
My favorite is still going to be Napoli. They did take a little slip this past match week, and they have slipped, I would say, these past 5 games. They're 2, 1, and 2. 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses. So they've definitely slipped up, but they're out of the Coppa. Conte is fully on 1 game a week, so he's going to have to rotate even less than he was going to have to if they went far in the Coppa. Conte has been there. He has won a Scudetto. Because I know that you're probably going to say Atalanta. A lot of people would probably say Atalanta. The thing with Atalanta, they're great. They're firing right now. They're scoring 3 goals a game. They're even defending well. But we've seen this before from Atalanta play this way and not be able to do it when it's crunch time. And we've seen Conte be able to grind out a season and know what it takes to win. So I'm giving the edge to Napoli because of the experience of Conte. And then even go below that, and the players, there's still like 6 or 7 of the core guys have won a Scudetto before, and they know what it takes to win a Scudetto. However, they did destroy everybody in their Scudetto race. So it will be interesting to see if a tight race like this, they're going to need to pull out some points that they didn't need to last Scudetto race because they were winning every game by 3-0. So we'll have to see how they can shake out. But because of their experience with winning, I give the edge to Napoli over Atalanta and even Inter.
You thought I was going to say Atalanta.
I did, yeah.
I still think it's Inter. I was really impressed this weekend. They are slowly getting better. Like of all the other teams, they've kind of started slow and then like spiked to where they are and like have been that good. Inter just steadily, like players got hurt and they didn't look great and they were getting results. And like now they're just like week after week, I'm seeing better things from everybody on the field. Apart from maybe Lautaro, who I still think hasn't figured his shit out yet. And I don't know why, but they've been comfortable playing in so many different game states. And we've seen what they can do in the Champions League, which is just button down the hatches against our quote unquote dangerous teams. And then against the lower level teams, look, this is really where I see Inter excelling ahead of these teams. They destroy teams that are worse than them.
They do. Yeah. Like Napoli grind out 1-0 some games and Inter go 3-0, 4-0, 4-1.
And I think they're going to continue to get better. And I mean,
fair.
If Atalanta could do it. And what I will point to with them is I would say this is the best player personnel Gasparini's ever had.
Deep
like
in
at
terms
every
of depth.
position, they're very good.
Yes.
And no, I think even in the first team, like the starting 11, other than
Agreed.
like 2 minors, and on the defensive side, they actually have good center backs now. And
I agree. Even the starting 11, but I don't think Atalanta's ever had this much depth. And
Freshenini coming off the
we're
bench,
you got
Samardzic.
you also remember that technically speaking, they're going to have 2 January signings in Scamacca if he can come back that soon, but definitely Scalvini because Scalvini's already getting burned. So if those guys come back and they're already in this form, it's going to be tough to knock them out. But Gasparini, I know he did it last year with the Europa League and he finally got his silverware, but we've seen it so many times that Atalanta just somehow piss away what we think is going to be a trophy winning season for them. Now, they got over the hump last year, so maybe that will allow them to, now they know what it takes to win. But with Napoli winning it 2 years ago and Conte and the players knowing, and even Inter and Inzaghi winning it last year, how they did, like those guys have been there. They know they know how to win and they know what it takes. I did think you were going to say Atalanta. I honestly like Inter to me, because of how poorly they started, and they started poorly and they're 3 points off the lead with the game in hand. That's why I didn't really consider them. But yeah, Inter is totally in this Scudetto race and can easily win it for sure. And I think for the other 2 teams that we didn't mention yet, Fiorentina and Lazio, listen, they are both playing out of their mind. Fiorentina, I don't know. I don't remember the last time they tied a game, let alone lost. But for me, I don't think they have the team depth to win the Scudetto. I think for them, it's finish in the top 4. I think even with how good of a season they started, if they finish 5th or 6th, it's still a win for them because Italiano could only get them in the Conference League year in and year out, and he would dominate the Conference League, and they would always be in the finals. So I think they're ready. The fans are probably ready for the next competition, whether that be the Champions League or Europa League. I think they'll be thrilled with that. And the way that they're playing now, I think it's totally capable for them to finish in a Champions League spot. And pending on how Italy does in the European tournaments, 5th place could get us that Champions League spot again. So that would be great for Fiorentina. Lazio, I think right now playing with house money.
Yeah, I think Lazio, this is where they would deserve to finish in my mind. I think the table is probably a pretty good representation of how I would rank the teams right now in terms of how good they've been. For Fiorentina, I think the best 11 for Fiorentina, in my mind, is better than Lazio's best 11 that they can put out there. But I think Palladino, we're going to see a little bit of like early days Atalanta. Like at some point this season, like they're overachieving right now. Like this squad is good. It's not quite this good, and Palladino is getting the best out of them. But at some point, they will fall off, and that's what always kills Atalanta. And Atalanta have over time gotten better and better at making those times smaller and smaller, where it's you lose a game and you bounce back versus losing 3 in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they keep this form up. Not that, I mean, this form is almost impossible to keep up. I don't think any teams could keep this up, but I do agree. I think they'll fall out. They're going a couple skid. They're going a little rut later on in the season. But once again, if they finish 5, 6, that's good for them. And I would argue the same thing as Lazio, right? People were saying Lazio might not finish top 7.
We were saying
maybe not top 10 with the type of recruitment that they did in the summer in their transfer window. And they are 3 points off of the top of the table. So I think they're playing with house money. Fiorentina's playing with house money. I think Atalanta's playing with house money a little bit. We all know how good they are, but I wasn't really having them as a Scudetto contender. I thought definitely a top 4 contender, but they're clearly in the Scudetto race and they should probably stay in it throughout this season. So right now in my mind, it's a 3-horse race between Atalanta, Napoli, and Inter. And then the 4, 5, and 6 is a 5-horse race between Fiorentina, Lazio, Juventus, Milan, and Bologna.
I think that's a fair assessment. I would agree. But that brings us into what happened this weekend. A lot of big games, a lot of big teams playing other big teams. It was an interesting one. We'll start with what happened on Sunday with the league leaders, former league leaders, actually. Napoli hosted Lazio. Lazio won this 1-0. A little bit of a surprise. I thought this was going to be Conte masterpiece. Napoli get it done, and it wasn't that.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we're gonna cover it after the match week, but it was a doubleheader with Lazio,
Yeah,
and
we can talk. We'll lump that in right now.
yeah, and Lazio dismantled Napoli, albeit both teams rotated a ton, right? There wasn't anybody starters out there, but Lazio beat him in the Coppa, and then people thought, all right, well, Conte didn't really care about the Coppa. He cares about the league. So let's see what they do against them in the league. And they didn't dismantle them, but they shut him down. Napoli had one shot on target. They didn't really create much. They did have a lot or more of the possession, but I thought Lazio did a great job defending as a team compactly and then getting the goal when they needed to in the 80th minute and then seeing the game out. I expected more from Napoli, if I'm going to be honest. I expected more from Lukaku. I know Cavada missed a chance. I thought that one of them would be able to score, but really good game by Lazio.
A great game by Lazio. Part of the story is definitely the big players on Napoli didn't show up. I thought Kvaratskhelia was very quiet in that he got the ball in the areas he wants to get the ball and really struggled to create. I don't think we saw the amount of service we've seen in the last couple of weeks get into Lukaku and McTominay, which also didn't help. But Lazio just defended well. Like it was kind of a Conte game. Like this game went
It
how I think
was.
Conte wanted it to go. They just got. I mean, at the end, Lazio basically countered them. Were 1v2, and Isaacson just made a good move and buried the one chance he got. Right, like if Kvaratskhelia buries his chance, we're looking about this differently. This was really a game of there's not going to be a ton of good looks, and if somebody takes the chance, you're going to win. And I think Verona was okay with that as well at Napoli, as long as we don't give them anything and we get a couple. I mean, he went Conte on Conte, and it was kind of a weird game. Not a ton really happened,
Not
which
a
is why
ton
we
really
left
happened, yeah.
nothing.
Which I was surprised how kind of poorly Zaccagna did against that, in even Nuno Tavares against that Di Lorenzo side, because that's where Napoli is kind of, you can attack them and counter them, but they didn't do a whole lot in this game. I would argue this is one of Zaccagna's worst games of the season. It was
I
kind of,
honestly, this might be a little bit harsh. I was talking to Logan about this. I don't think Zaccagni's been great this year. We're seeing his age in my mind. His stats are decent because he's taken a bunch of penalties. But I was looking at it today because one of the players I'm going to highlight in a little bit is Steven El Shaarawy. If you take away Zaccagni's stats, I mean his penalties, same stats as El Shaarawy. And I think El Shaarawy has done way more for his team than Zaccagni has.
yeah, agreed.
Tavares, part of this, I think, is getting back up to fitness because he was out for a while. But I would agree that it was just a cagey game. Like, really not much to report on it.
There wasn't a lot, yeah. I mean, I guess to flip it from the Napoli perspective, I thought Scott McTominay, he kind of didn't play all that well, and neither did Lukaku, which I don't know how many games in a row this is now for Lukaku, but he has not scored a goal in a very long time. I was reading that the Napoli fans are starting to get a little upset with him because he hasn't really done much. So do you expect Lukaku and these struggles to continue? Did you see this coming? What are your thoughts with Lukaku?
I saw it coming a little bit. He's going to be okay in my mind. In the way they're deploying Scott McTominay in the final third, it's very much going to be if one of them is playing well, it's going to be, I mean, if one of them is playing bad, it's going to be hard for the other to play well because a lot of Scott McTominay's goals have come from Lukaku occupying
The
like
space.
two defenders
Yeah.
and then McTominay dropping into the space and vice versa. So I think that is going to be a big part of this. For Lukaku, who he is now, he relies on service more. And Lazio made the field small, and Lukaku wasn't really able to do any of the things he's good at, really, is what I would say. Like, he didn't really get chances to hold the ball up and lay a pass off. He didn't get chances to use his body in the box to go and get a goal. And because of that, he was just quiet. The whole team, I could say, was quiet, really. Nobody did anything.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is who Lukaku is now, right? He's not 26 anymore. He's an older guy. We saw it with Roma last year. He's going to have spurts. He's going to have spurts of games where he gets 3 goals, 3 assists, and he's going to have spurts of games where he doesn't do a thing. He's no longer the Lukaku on Inter that can score 30 goals. I think this is just has to be accepted, has to be understood. And I think that's why Napoli are in the race for Parma striker, Boni,
Yeah.
because they see that and they know that, and they're going to need somebody else that can play the 9 because Gio Simeone is not going to get it done for as many minutes as they're going to need him to play with Lukaku and what he's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, the other interesting piece of this that Napoli, I would like to see at some point in a game like this, David Neres might work better than Politano in that Politano's good at getting the ball on his left foot and trying to shoot, but he rarely scores, realistically.
Yeah, very rarely.
David Neres is more of a tricky guy. They can get 1v1 and drive the ball into the box. In a game like this, if you have 2 guys doing that and not just Kvaratskhelia, it just creates different angles, creates a few more problems than, and Politano is predictable. And he's never driven the ball, right?
Yeah.
To create. And I would like to see a change there.
I agree. I'm honestly surprised Politano has played as much as he has.
Yeah.
I would have thought that Neres would have gotten multiple starts at this point in the season. I don't think he started one Serie A game this year. I know he started the Coppa, but I was very, very surprised, or I'm still surprised how much Politano is playing and how much he's starting. And I would definitely give David Neres a run. You paid a good amount of money for him. I would definitely give him some starts.
Yeah, for me, I have nothing more on Napoli from Lazio. Baroni, good coaching, right? Good defensive coaching. You just got a result in Napoli. You just did your business here, and you kind of overachieved in getting a win.
And yeah, plus they dropped points last week to a team that they shouldn't have. I'm blanking on who they dropped points to. Let me think. Who was it? Parma. So this was a very good bounce back win for Lazio and a statement win saying like, hey, we can beat anyone in this league. We've already known that because of how good that they're playing. But this was a great win. And I think that this win is one of the reasons why how they were able to get this win goes back to the game against Juventus. And I said it before, when they went down a man against Juventus, they realized, hey, we can defend for 90 minutes if we need to. We don't need to play as open as we always do. And I think that's what they did this game, and it worked out for them.
That's a good point. This season, we're definitely seeing Baroni evolve and going on like a journey to becoming a very good manager. We're seeing it with Palladino as well. We're seeing it with a lot of different guys, but Baroni's been in he's overachieving, I would say.
For sure.
I would say across the board.
House money they're playing with.
That, yeah.
For sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah, but some other big games that happened. Let's jump to Friday, because that was an insane day of Calcio.
Okay.
We had Parma at Inter, and then we had Milan at Atalanta right after that. So that was a sick day. Let's start with the Parma game. What I liked about this game, so Parma lost this game 3-1. What I liked about it from a Parma perspective is honestly not much. They got work. They weren't as good, and they were allowed to play how they wanted to play in transition, defending in transition and attacking in transition a lot of the time. And they just got outperformed at every position on the entire field. Even their goal was kind of a fluke at the end. They didn't deserve it.
It was the own goal.
From an Inter perspective, yeah, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Yeah. But from an Inter perspective, and this is kind of what I highlighted at the beginning and why I'm so hot on them, is they allowed this game to be played in transition and just were confident enough to just dominate it, right? Like they would counter and then allow the counter to come against them, and they would just muffle it. They would just stop Parma from attacking. I don't know how they did it so well on all areas of the pitch. And then what we talk about with the fluid Inter Milan counterattacking, we saw it this game. They go from back to front so quickly. It's 1 or 2 passes and they're at the top of the opponent's box. And they just showcase that so well. And for large stints so far this season, we haven't seen that. It's either been like sitting in the shell, trying to be a little bit more ball dominant and getting away from what they're so good at. And it kind of reminded me of how Liverpool played against City a couple weeks ago. Granted, like obviously 2 different levels, but just execution, player ability that was just superior, and they just displayed it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Parma was a 13th ranked team going up against the Scudetto champions in the San Siro. It was a tall mountain to climb for Parma, as it was. Did anyone have Parma winning? Probably not. With that said, we've seen Calcio before. Big teams not be able to finish their business, take care of business, and get 3 points. Inter dominated this game from start to finish. I think they actually scored 4 goals, but one of them was called offsides. It might have been 5 actually, but one was called off or they were called off for offsides. But they absolutely dominated. DeMarco was just dominating. Mkhitaryan played extremely well as well, getting 2 assists. Barella can do everything in the midfield. He can tackle, he can run, he can finish, as we saw that. And then Marcus Thuram he's just always in the right place at the right time, scoring goals. And you mentioned it earlier. Their one player that's been struggling is their captain, might be arguably their best player, Lautaro. Not a great game from him again, but it doesn't seem to matter, right? I mean, in the beginning of the season, it sort of seemed to matter because they were dropping some points, but they're scoring 3 goals without Lautaro scoring. Thuram is scoring for him and Lautaro. DeMarco creates so many chances every single game. So this was the Inter of last season. This is probably going to be what we're going to see from Inter moving forward. However, what I'll just say is and I do think the goal was a fluke, but I've been keeping track of it. Another 80th minute goal allowed by Inter in the Serie A. It's something to keep an eye on because maybe in the next game or in the future, they're not going to be up by 3, so they can't switch off, which I don't think that they necessarily switched off. I think it was a fluke goal, but you want that game to be a clean sheet with how you dominated that game, right? I mean, Parma's XG was 0.38. You want that to be a clean sheet, and it was.
Yeah, I would agree. They definitely switched off, and it's a point of concern. But a question for you that I just thought of: if you're Inzaghi, are you benching Lautaro at some point here to try to get somebody else going? And maybe just one game though, like right, he comes off the bench in the 60th because they do have Arnautovic on the bench, who is a proven Serie A goal scorer. Joaquin Correa's playing really well when he's come on. And then Mehdi Taremi, I think, is kind of lost his play too. He's been bad when he's played in the season.
It's interesting because
2 guys.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like those 3, the 3 strikers, Correa was totally out of the team last season, and now he started that one game and he got 2 goals and 2 assists, or 1 goal and 2 assists. I can't remember the exact stats. He would be the only player really that I would say can go in for Lautaro because Arnautovic, Thuram, and Taremi they're not the same players, but they're similar builds, kind of do very similar things. So you're not getting like a yin and yang. I think Thuram can do obviously way more than Arnautovic and Taremi, but when you're playing 2 up top, you like to play a smaller guy, good on the ball, good passing, and a taller guy, physical bruiser, good in the air, which they have with Lautaro and Thuram. And I think they projected to have with Lautaro and Taremi, but those 2 have not clicked. And I think that he stumbled upon something with Thuram and Correa 2 games ago, which if I was Inzaghi, I would try again, right? But it's tough to know when, because you wouldn't want to play him in one of those bigger games because you want to play Lautaro. But you also want to play Lautaro against a lower level team to get him out of his funk, because sometimes a goal or a striker just needs to see the ball go in the net and get a goal, and then all hell breaks loose and he goes on and he's in amazing form. So it's going to be tough to navigate because these are the games that you would expect Lautaro to break that slump that he's in. But I wouldn't play Correa in like against Juventus or Milan or Napoli or Atalanta. So he's going to have to fiddle with that, but I would definitely do it. I mean, Lautaro's struggling. Correa showed that he played extremely well. You have to reward the guy for when you allow him to have opportunities and he succeeds and excels in those opportunities you give him. You need to then reward him, right? Because you're giving him his chances. He's doing what you're asking him to do. Play him a little bit more.
I agree. And just to wrap on that point, I wouldn't be saying this if Lautaro's off the ball stuff was noticeably good, but he's just been out of games on the ball and off the ball for me, and just not really doing enough. And Marcus Thuram is just kind of bossing.
Thuram's having
Thuram's going great.
Having such a good season. I don't know who, but it might be tough to keep him in the Serie A. Some Prem team might throw 110 million for him because he's scoring a poacher's goals. He's getting assists. He's scoring number 9 goals where it's like he takes on the whole team. He's scoring goals outside the box. Like he's scoring any way you want a striker to score, and he's getting people involved. He's doing it all.
Yeah, no, Barcelona could use a striker right now too.
It's a good
The other
shout.
game that happened on Friday, AC Milan went to Atalanta. This was an absolute shootout, mostly favoring Atalanta. They did win this game 2-1 off of a late goal from Lookman, but the game started with a CDK header at the back post against his former club in the 12th minute.
Celebrated.
Jumped over Teo Hernandez, celebrated, had to celebrate. Alvaro Morata then netted one about 10 minutes later, which was a good goal, good counterattack from Milan. And then in the 87th minute, off of another set piece, Adamalo Lookman gets another goal. That's a guy that's been flying. And I will say there was a point in time where Retegui missed a really, really easy opportunity when he had first come on. But Milan had their chances at the beginning of the game. I think Milan played well the entire game. Their offense was potent for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then it kind of went quiet from there. Atalanta hit over 2 XG. Milan didn't get more.
Stood on his head.
That's
great game. Great game. I mean, this was a classic Milan game, and they scored the goal a very Milan way. Teo Hernandez, great through ball to Leao. Leao destroyed Bellanova for pace, who Bellanova's got some speed to him, and Leao.
Bellanova was outrunning Teo Hernandez the entire game, and Leao made him look like he had poop in his pants.
And then Leao plays a tremendous ball across goal, and I'm not gonna Morata. That's a good finish. That's
great finish.
A type of chance that Morata is known to miss. So very clinical. Milan's goal was very pretty. But other than that one play, this game was dominated by Atalanta. And if it wasn't for Mike Mignon, this game probably finishes 3 or 4-1. They absolutely dominated every asset of the game, Atalanta. They had 4 big chances, 17 total shots, and an XG of 2.11. So Atalanta is just more of the same with them. You know what you're going to get with them. You're going to get man-to-man all over the pitch. We want the ball. As soon as we lose it, we're going to press you. And we are going to try to score as many goals as we can. And we're just going to put up goals. And I didn't think it was going to come. It was 1-1 for 70 minutes, and Lookman did get his goal. Lookman's also flying high as well, scoring a goal a game, or a goal or an assist a game, it looks like. So great game from Atalanta. And also, they did it with Retegui did come in, as you mentioned, but they did it with him on the bench. So they're showing they could do it with many different people.
Yeah, there's just so many different ways they can beat you. That's the thing. Like, Bellanova has been a revelation this year. I would say he's the best right-sided fullback, wingback. I think he can play as conventional right back. I would say he's the best in the league right now, in my opinion. I love everything that he's doing. The other thing that's a little bit different about this team that I would say that has helped a lot is Darun has hit a level that he was probably at like 3 or 4 years ago and has been playing really well. And then Ederson just continued to fly. And these shootouts, and Milan wanted a shootout in this game. They didn't sit back, and you're not going to beat them. I don't even, like, nobody, apart from Inter, who absolutely torched them. If you get into a shootout with this team, you aren't really going to win because of the amount of opportunities they're then going to throw at you. And this is just another example of who they can do it to. They can do it to anybody. And I feel good about them in the Champions League this week, and they're playing Real Madrid at home.
Madrid's been struggling, so now's the time to play Madrid. And they did get dismantled in the summer, but that's the summer, and they are in such good form right now. 9 straight wins in the league. They've only allowed 1 goal in the Champions League. So, what I'm so surprised about, and I shouldn't be, because it happens every year. Somebody goes and buys a player on Atalanta, and it's like he's not missing at all. And I'm surprised on how little they miss Coop Miners. Like, Coop Miners was a huge part of their team last year. Played game in and game out. Had 10 plus goals, 10 plus assists, and they slot in Darun. And like you said, he's playing well. But then they subbed in Summersic, and Summersic played amazing as well this game. So and Ederson, even though, like, whoever you partner next to Ederson, he's going to allow his partner in crime to not really have to think about tracking back, because he's going to just be a brick wall and be everywhere. So he allows his partner to kind of just focus on offense. And I've really thought that they were going to miss Coop Miners because he's such a good player, and they do not miss him at all. Even
They basically replaced him with 3 people. They went one of Samardzic, Brescianini, or Pasalic was there, but he's played very well this year. I don't know where it came from.
yeah.
He's rolling the years back too. But they basically said one of these 3 guys is going to replace Coop Miners, and they've all played and they've all had their chance and they've all played well, and it's just working.
Yeah, it's just it's the system, and Gasperini has a system. The guys understand it, and it's even the same with when you leave the system. Like Coop Miners, I watch obviously every Juventus game. He is a good player. He is not playing that well right now. He's not having the numbers, but you see the moments of brilliance from him. But you take him out of the Gasperini system, and he doesn't do the same that he does in the system. So it's really, and I know we've talked about it time and time again, it's a testimony to Gasperini, Atalanta, their scouting, their coaching, how well they are ran as a club overall. They're going to be a tough team to beat every single week in and week out, especially with how good they're defending and because that's their weak point, right? Their center backs are not their best, it is their weakest position, but they are defending very well right now. Milan had to score a picture perfect-esque goal to get by them.
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about Milan too. Again, nothing new. I don't think you have to come away from this game feeling really all that bad. Atalanta are really good, and you're not at their level right now, very simply. And you're trying to build there. What's bad is Christian Pulisic maybe got hurt. I don't know what exactly it is, but that's not good.
He tore his calf, like confirmed. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, but he's obviously been their focal point on offense, been their leading scorer, leading assist man. So he's going to be tough to replace. But what I'd say, Milan is in not like the Pulisic injury obviously adds to this, but like Fonseca's clearly thought he's found something with playing Musa off the right, adding that extra line of defense to help Emerson Royale on the right-hand side. But it kind of clips their wings, and it doesn't allow them to fly with not playing Pulisic on the right and then another body in the midfield and having Reinders and Loftus-Cheek, or who was playing the 10 there?
It was Pulisic to start, but then they
but I'm saying when Pulisic played on the right, it was Reinders and Loftus-Cheek. So like it's clipping their wings playing Musa off the right and not Pulisic and Loftus-Cheek and Reinders in terms of offensively, I think. And now without Pulisic in, you need Loftus-Cheek, Leao, Reinders, and Hernandez to step their game up even more, and Morata, and create chances that Pulisic was providing, because he probably has half their goals and assists, and now he's going to be gone for however long.
At least Leao's playing well. And on the Emerson Royale thing, I don't know why. Maybe he's hesitant to play guys out of position. But for me, like, what is the justification of playing Emerson Royale there? And maybe, like, Tomori's not playing, but he's definitely better defensively.
He is, but Tomori just runs around with Tomori runs around.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I just don't know how, like, at least Emerson has played fullback before, outside back. He understands it. Like, you don't know what you're going to get if you throw Tomori there.
Yeah,
you know who I wouldn't hate to see there, just because he's not a chicken with his head cut off. He's very thoughtful in his positioning and his approach, is Gabbia. But he's a clear center back.
Yeah.
But Gabbia is like,
I would say Tomori, though, because Tomori is by far the most athletic.
Yeah.
And the way Emerson plays in this system is a lot of the time he's kind of a third center back. Like, he occupies a little bit wider of a space, but he doesn't really have a lot of offensive responsibility in my mind. And if you completely take it away from it, it doesn't really blunt the offense. So just play a better defender out there. I don't really get it. And then get another attacker on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. They don't really have, like, they haven't tried it yet. I don't know if they will, and they don't have really anybody else to fall back on. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Emerson Royale and Musa, especially now with the Pulisic injury, because now you can really just slot in Loftus-Cheek and Reinders in that 10 spot where they're kind of more known to play. But it'll be interesting to see how they create without Christian.
Yeah, that's a little scary. But to keep it rolling, we had a lot of good games this weekend. We got 2 more we got to cover here a little bit. Bologna went to Juventus. This was an interesting one.
This was a interesting one for sure. It was the Thiago Motta Bowl. Thiago Motta, he is ex-team Bologna, came over in the Allianz Stadium in Turin and took the game to Juventus. Italiano was pressing. He was high press, wanted the ball at all times. And when they did not have the ball, they dared Juventus to play out from the back. And when they did have the ball, they wanted to pass it all around Juventus. And they did that for the first half. Absolutely destroyed Juventus. Dan and Doyne had a great goal from a fantastic assist as well. Just murdered Juventus in the first half, even though they only went up 1-0. It wasn't even a contest. Second half, right out of the second half, it was same story. And they scored a picture-perfect goal with Castro doing a nice back heel flick to, who was it, Pobega. Pobega had a nice chip over Perin. Perin needed to save that. And Juventus went down 2-0. And then all of a sudden, Juventus flipped a switch. And they started taking it to Bologna, and they realized we cannot lose this game. And they ended up tying this game 2-2. But it begs the question again. Very similar story against Inter. They went down 4-2 and they came back. Why is the mentality not there from the start of the game? Because if you go into the game with that mentality, you probably win this game 4-1 or 4-0 because you scored 2 goals in the 60th minute on. The mentality is not there for Juventus to start the game. It's very lackluster. It's very wait around. We think something's going to happen. Nothing ever happens until they force the issue because they need it to happen. So I don't know what is missing to start the game with the mentality.
I would say it's directly related to 2 guys that came off the bench, and it brings questions around who should be starting, and Kenan Yildiz and Mbangula, who both came off the bench, both probably guys that push the pace more than most.
Mm-hmm. And you know what also he did was that Yildiz played as a 10 and Mbangula played fully out and out left wing. And remember when we didn't have Coop Miners, Yildiz was playing the 10, and Yildiz had a goal and an assist, I believe, in the first 2 games. And Mbangula had a goal and an assist in the first 2 games playing left wing. We got Coop Miners. We put Coop Miners at the 10, and we pushed Yildiz to the left, and we've been struggling. He then put Yildiz in at the 10 and Mbangula at the wing, and we scored a goal. So I do agree that might have an effect. It's because Mbangula is such an out-and-out winger, and Yildiz is a winger, but he also likes to go in the middle.
What's your solution then?
I don't know. It's tough
Is there a way to play Yildiz, Mbangula, or
Yes.
Yildiz basically through the middle?
Yes.
And then you would assume Coop Miners and a third midfielder.
Yeah.
For Culture.
4-1-4-1. Now what happens is you probably have to drop Locatelli from the 3. You play the back 4, Thuram or Locatelli right there. I would go Thuram because you can cover more ground as a 1. 4 with Yildiz and Coop Miners behind Dusan as the 2 10s, and then Mbangula holding the width with Conceição holding the width, and then Dusan. The problem with the 4-1-4-1 that Juventus probably will find when they play it, or if they ever play it, is having that. Typically what you want, those 2 guys behind the striker to get in front of the striker and have the striker play them in. Dusan can't do that. He can't hold up the ball to then play a through ball or play a pass to Yildiz and Coop Miners. He doesn't have that's not his skill set, right? So that's what they're going to struggle with if they play that way. But that would be how you can play them all and still hold the width and dominate the middle. That would be my solution.
What I would be concerned with, in my assumption as why Thiago Motta is not going to do that, is when you play the one guy who, because Fajoli and Locatelli aren't going to do enough for you defensively to compensate for Coop Miners and Yildiz. And then with Thuram, I don't think he's good enough at pacing the game.
Yeah.
And they don't really have like a number 6 destroyer.
I mean, ideally what it would look like in possession would be Cambiaso goes next to Thuram, and it's a 3-2-4-1, but that's not the case at all. And I'd argue Cambiaso is coming in the midfield, but I'd argue that's hindering or making Coop Miners play more defensively because of how high
That's my
Cambiaso gets.
concern, is because his best part of his game, final third, creating, scoring goals. And I would be worried that he would be forced back because Yildiz is not going to go back to retrieve the ball down.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's how I would rock the 4-1, but you can only do that sometimes because I would even say, can Douglas Luiz play that one, right? Is he defensive enough to play that one? I know he played behind the midfield at Villa, but he likes to get up and score goals. He had 10 goals at Villa last year. So if he's in, can you play it? It's a lot to figure out and a lot to balance, but Mata needs to start playing around with stuff because Juventus is off to the second worst start in the Serie A in the last 14 years, but we haven't lost. So like those two shouldn't go together, right? We're an undefeated team that's in 6th place in the second worst start in 14 years. So he needs to play around with something, needs to tweak some things. And I think one solution would be playing in Bangula a lot more, even if that means having to take Coop Miners out every now and then. Because Coop Miners has never been subbed off or not played a game since he's been Juventus. He did get injured a little bit, but if Coop Miners is playing, he doesn't get subbed off, and he's almost 99% chance in the starting lineup every game.
Yeah, I would like to see some player rotation. From a Bologna perspective, it's really more the same for both teams. For me, Juve struggling and then somehow flipping the switch to then crawl their way back into a game. For Bologna, you go up 2-0. You would think Italiano ball would get it done up 2-0, but when they score goals, they concede goals, and things are going in the right direction. But still, like the way Italiano plays, this has got to be 3 points. Up 2-0 on a Juve team that have not really been a great offensive team. You got to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, this for Juventus, it's terrible to say, but it felt like a win because you're down 2-0. If you're Bologna and you want to finish top 4, top 5 again, like you did with Mata, this had to be 3 points when you're up 2-0 in the 60th minute. You have to be able to find a way to see this game out and get all 3 points. Italiano special, blowing the 2-0 lead. He does that all the time. But listen, at the end of the day, like Bologna are still trending in the right direction. I know it's taken them a little bit longer to get there, but they still got a point, right? They're scoring goals now. I mean, you can see Italiano's fingerprints and even Mata's fingerprints still all over Bologna. So they're trending in the right direction. I would be shocked if they don't somehow get in the top 7 spot, although it's going to be tight because you got Milan and Juve struggling right now. So it was a good game for Bologna, though. If I was a Bologna fan, I would be upset that it was a draw, but I'd be very pleased with how they played.
Point at Juve is always a good result, I think, for any team, even like you. Literally any team.
I was listening to the post game and Del Piero, or maybe it was the pregame, I can't remember, but Del Piero, they were interviewing Del Piero, and he said Juventus is in a little bit of a worried state, or they should be, because teams in the Serie A now are starting to believe, no matter what level, they can come into Turin, come into the Allianz, and not just draw. They can win. And you allow teams to have that belief, and it's only going to snowball into more and more, and it's going to snowball into Juventus losing, which we've seen them do at home so many times throughout this year, which in their 9-run Scudetto reign, they never lost at home. It was impossible to get a point in Turin in Juventus. And now it's time and time again, they're dropping points at home. And the more they do, the more teams are going to believe that, hey, it doesn't matter if we're at the Allianz in Turin, we can still beat them.
Yeah, or get a point at least. It's crazy they haven't lost, though. That's actually still insane.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat.
A last game you want to break down or spend a little bit more time. It's going to be a little bit less. Claudio Ranieri's Roma got their first win under his reign. They beat Lecce 4-1. And I just want to highlight this game. I watched it. This was Roma's best performance of the season so far. They did a 3-4-3, and I actually think what works so well is Ranieri just put his players where they were supposed to play on the field. 3-4-3 in Dybala as the number 9, which we hadn't really seen yet this year. Solo 9, with El Shaarawy and Salamakers running off of him, which they were very much conventional wingers. And then in the midfield, it was Manu Kone with Paredes, which I thought worked really well, with Paredes kind of doing all the dirty work and Manu Kone being the one that drove the ball. produce a little bit more offense. The other thing that I really liked about this that I saw was the balance of the team seemed to finally be right. Dybala playing as the number 9 didn't have to worry about getting into Dovbik's space or creating opportunity for Dovbik. He was able to play with the back line of Lecce or come in deep in that right side space that we know he likes. And the reason now that that space isn't so crowded is Salamanca's is a very traditional hold the width guy. So then that space doesn't get crowded. And then on the other side of the pitch, El Shaarawy is an inverted winger. So then he's occupying the left side space with Angelino, who's their most technically gifted crosser, I would say, and occupying space on the left. And the other thing that happens is then Manu Kone can occupy a space that's a little bit more central in the area that Dybala vacates, and the whole thing just worked really well.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that was good explanation. That was very good
really
breakdown.
good to see. The important takeaway, though, for me is that Ranieri's a guy that is probably insulated from the board a little bit because it's a 1-year deal. They're not going to fire him now. Like, he has the reins. He can do what he wants. And what happens? Big signings aren't playing. Benches Dobic, benches Sule, Pellegrini not playing either. And they have their best game of the year.
Now, do you think it was their best game because of all of that you just broke down, or because it was against Lecce?
I would say mixture of both, because Lecce, as much as we've dogged them this year, have gotten results against clubs that have been playing far better than Roma. Like, they're not necessarily winning games, but they took it to Lecce. Won this game 4-1, and the only goal they conceded was Celik got hurt. The new Saudi Arabian guy came in. I think this was the first time he got substantial minutes. Made a horrible tackle in the box, gave up a PK. I don't know if they're going to keep this up. My worry always with a 2-man midfield is you can get overrun very easily.
Especially with Paredes, who doesn't have too much pace. But Kone's been balling for them.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Kone is nasty. And this was Dybala's best game too. So for me, it's hard to put Dovic back in the teams. Dybala is amazing.
I mean,
it was classic Dybala. Like, when you put him and just let him do his thing and own that area, he is so fucking good. And I forgot how good he was.
He's so good, dude. When he's healthy and has his space to kind of express himself, he's so good. But I'll be honest with Paisanos, I didn't actually watch this game. I'm looking at the lineup now. You broke it down. That makes total sense, right? Salamanca's taking out the right side, wanting to stay wide and allowing Dybala to be all in the middle, whether it's as a 9 or as a false 9, not needing to worry about stepping on Sule's space or Dovbik's space. Just makes total sense. And it's also, they don't need to send in, with Dovbik not in and liking crosses, you don't need to send in 10, 20, 30 crosses. You can hold the ball, you can play it back, you can possess it as Dybala being the false 9 around the box and play 1-2s. So it makes a lot of sense, this lineup. But as you said, that will probably not fly for a long time because they made heavy investments in Dovbik and Sule. And if they want to either see their money's worth or make more money from these players, they need to play. But the reason that they're struggling is because this lineup makes sense. Can this lineup win a game against a bigger Serie A club? We'll have to see, because the talent level, I'd say, is probably not amazing. But the continuity on this lineup makes the most sense for Roma. So it's going to be interesting for Roma and Ranieri to figure out how to play them and who to play and how to line up game in and game out.
What I'm a little bit worried about for Sule is Ranieri has historically liked guys that are like willing runners. Like, even El Shaarawy now, you could probably play him at wingback and he's gonna make the run still. He was really good. And then Salamanca's is just a classic winger that he likes to play. Just runs up and down the field. On the flip side of things, Riyad Mahrez is a Claudio Ranieri creation. Sule does a lot of similar things. Is probably less of a run-in behind guy than Mahrez was, because Mahrez was that at one point in time. But they're both tricky. Maybe he finds a way. With Dybala, it's always going to be hard to play both of them. And
always.
And I don't know what the solution is. I really don't.
And then you throw, we've talked about it. You throw Dobic there too. It just makes it even tougher.
Yeah, it makes it very tough. But with the way Dybala plays, you are not dropping him. And Salamanca scored a goal, and El Shaarawy had 2 assists. So you're not dropping any of them at this point.
Who do Roma got next week?
Roma got.
Como.
You got to play everybody against Como.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did want to talk about with the 2-man midfield, I don't know how Pellegrini's playing either.
Yeah.
Because you can't play him in a 2-man midfield.
You have to play him in the Dybala space. Like that's where, but that's what we
but
talked
Dybala
about.
was a 9. Dybala was a 9 in this game. Like he was pure. I know it shows like a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
But it was front 3. Dybala was a 9, 100%.
Yeah. Then, I mean, maybe in the El Shaarawy space because he understands like space so well, but it provides a little different because Pellegrini's not going to run like El Shaarawy is.
Yeah.
He's not getting up and down the pitch.
And that's where I don't know. And he didn't even come off the bench. Like Pizzilli came off the bench and played the Salamaker's role off the right, played it phenomenally, running up and down the field, made things happen.
And then
And I think
Zalewski
that
subbed in for El Shaarawy.
Yeah, and I see that like those guys make sense. Like they're going to run, they're going to continue to run no matter what's going on. Pizzilli scored, should have scored twice. And quickly, it's Pellegrini doesn't have a spot, like very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I'd also say you have to play Kone, especially having like Hummels as a center back and it being in a 2-man midfield because his pace, like you can't do Cristante and Paredes there.
Kone is unbenchable at this point.
Yeah.
He has to play every single game, and he is the more attacking midfielder in a midfield too. So
yeah,
like you're stuck with him. He's really good though. I will say
he's been a great signing.
Nasty. He's going to be a big decent player. He might make the French team in place of Rabiot. Like he is really, really good.
Yeah.
Well, this is 3 years from now, I guess, but.
Yeah, I mean, that you got Thuram as well in the midfield for French, so it'll be tough. But I think Kone's been playing way better than Thuram has. Kone almost scored last game. Almost scored like Kone is
every game.
Yeah, he almost scores every single game. Obviously scored this game, so yeah, he's unbenchable for sure. It's gonna be interesting to see because I mean, I would say maybe because Dybala is not always the healthiest guy, so instead of having Dybala play as a 9, when you play Pellegrini, you play him like the 3-4-1-2 in that space. But then I think that you don't have a true anybody occupying that 9 space with Salamakers and El Shaarawy playing the wings, right? So I don't even think Pellegrini would fit in that spot with these 2 up top.
Honestly, the best way of playing Pellegrini and Soulé for me would be Pellegrini off the left as more of like an inside forward, and then Soulé off the right, do whatever you want, and then Dovbyk through the middle. That's the only way I really see it working at this point.
Yeah. I mean, Pellegrini understands space so well that he could be able to figure it out, but it'll be tough. You know, we were so hot on Roma. It makes so much sense why Dovbyk, Dybala, Soulé, and Pellegrini like doesn't work. Like we should have seen this coming. It's just that's like so much talent in that 4 that you just figured it would work, but like there's a clear reason why it doesn't work because Soulé and Dybala play the exact same position. Pellegrini and Dybala like to hold up very similar spaces, and none of those guys like to cross it, and Dovbyk only likes to score through cross. So
Ranieri's figuring out maybe. We'll see if they can piece it together a few more games. But keeping it rolling. Torino went to Genoa. The game ended 0-0. Terrible game. Watched it. It was terrible. Cagliari went to Fiorentina. Fiorentina got it done 1-0. I was a little bit worried about this game because Cagliari have been a very, very tricky opponent. 1-0 win is a great result, I think, for Fiorentina. And they're just absolutely flying. I don't remember the last time they dropped a point at this now. I mean, it's crazy. Empoli went to Hellas Verona, won that game 4-1. I think I am starting to say Verona is getting relegated. They are really, really bad. And losing 4-1 at home against Empoli is not bad. That is bad.
That's real bad. And they've allowed 37 goals for. The next closest is 27. So they've allowed 10 more than the next closest, and that's Venezia, who's in dead last. So Verona started hot, but since then they have not been able to figure it out. They can't get out their own way. I do think Verona will probably end up getting relegated. Verona shows how Veroni's showing it again in two different
Verona,
ways.
I was hot on Zanetti too. I thought he was gonna be a good coach. They really fallen off a cliff. Como went to Venice, hardest place to play in the league. We've been saying it. This game was basically played in a hurricane. It was insane. And tie 2-2. Kind of a bad result for both teams. Both teams, I would say.
I agree.
Venezia scored on the best Olympico I've ever seen to tie it up. I think part of it was the hurricane whipping the ball into the net perfectly. But I mean, is there any way to stop backing the little lads at the lake at this point?
I mean,
not.
Listen, I would say it's a worse result for Como because they dominated this game. Venezia had 0 big chances, a XG of 0.32, and they scored 2 goals. So not the best showing from Como because of that. However, Como only had 2 goals because Venezia put in an own goal. So I think that this game, Como should have got the 3 points. So it's a worse result for Como only getting 1, but because Venezia was at home, also a bad result for them. So bad result for both teams. I agree.
Yeah, Venezia going down, Verona going down. I don't know who the third one is because I think Monza are better than Como.
I think Lecce stink too, though.
I know, but Lecce have been getting it done. I don't know why.
They have been, but dude, same with Cagliari. Cagliari's your club, but they're only 2 points off. It's gonna be crazy, that relegation battle.
It's gonna just be insane. Other games that happened last week: Coppa Italia, Monza, the team I just backed, got absolutely thrashed in Bologna 4-0. Really good game for Bologna. I was happy they got something done here. Sassuolo, Serie B club, they're running away with Serie B. I actually looked at this before the game. They're going to be back up here next year, deservedly so.
Yeah, it makes sense.
They're a Serie A club.
They're a Serie A club for sure.
They got fucking smashed 6-1 at AC Milan, so may be tough next year. Empoli went to Fiorentina, 2-2 game, kind of a shootout. Empoli will through on PKs. Great result for Empoli. I actually think this is probably good for Fiorentina, so they can focus on the league and then winning the conference league, which they should do.
I agree. That's right. When I saw that result, that's the first thing I thought. It was, listen, Fiorentina's overachieving in the league. They obviously have the conference league that their fans expect them to go far. It's tough managing 3 competitions. Just have Palladino focus on 2, the league and the conference league. But Empoli's 6 goals in their last 2 games.
Empoli's good. Empoli's good, and they're changing before our eyes. They're getting more offensive. It's really amazing. I would like to see them get back to playing good defense at some point because they've gotten away from that. I don't know why. They're not doing shootouts. I don't know what happened. They really built the script on us. The last game that happened, we already talked about. Napoli went to Lazio. So Lazio won in Rome in the Coppa Italia, and then on the weekend, won in Naples.
Hat trick. I forgot by who, but
it was the young guy. I forget his name. It's a good shout.
He had a hat trick.
I think he's Belgian.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I can't remember his name either, but he got a hat trick. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. But that wraps up what happened this week. Some previews here. We got Champions League, Inter Milan at Bayer Leverkusen. I saw a lot of pundits today talking about how Leverkusen are going to win. Inter Milan are eons better than Bayer Leverkusen this year.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Serie A just doesn't get its respect too. When it comes to any pundit that doesn't cover the league. So I'm not surprised that they said Leverkusen will win, even though they got absolutely dismantled in the Europa League final by Atalanta, and Inter destroy Atalanta. So by the transitive property, this is Inter's game. But obviously the transitive property makes no sense. So it'll be a great game to watch. But yeah, Inter have the best defense in the league and the Champions League. They're top of the second in the table. So this was a good game.
The other one, we got Real Madrid in Bergamo to play Atalanta. This is a repeat of the Super Cup. In the Super Cup, what was the score? 2-0 or something like that? They kind of got smacked.
Yeah, it was 3-1 maybe, something like that. They got smacked for sure.
But that Atalanta that played Real Madrid is far different from this one. And Real Madrid has been out of form.
That Atalanta also was when they were going through the Coupe Miners saga, and they expected to have him, and then they didn't. Now they obviously know that they don't have Coupe Miners, and they are starting to gel. And Real Madrid are also, I'm trying to find the Champions League table right now as I'm talking. I'm struggling to find it. They're not, I don't think that they're qualified right now. They're
in
very
the last
low.
playoff spot right now.
Yeah. But did you see what Ancelotti said? He was like, don't worry, guys. Real Madrid will be in the finals come May 31st or whatever date it is. But
they're missing Vinicius. I think he's still hurt.
Yeah, they're missing Vinicius for sure. Jude's starting to come out of his little rut. I saw the last 5 games. He has 3 goals and 4 assists. But listen, Atalanta's firing on all cylinders. Real Madrid is not. We do know that this is Real Madrid's competition, obviously. However, Atalanta typically play better in the Champions League than in the Serie A. So I wouldn't be shocked if Atalanta win this game. And they've also had the second best defense in the Champions League, only behind Inter.
Which is insane. And the other thing I just thought about is this whole Atalanta being unstoppable directly correlates to them having a stadium with fans. Like they
that's true.
Really could. Once they actually built the stadium, it could have people in it.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, Bergamo is a fortress now, I guess. A couple other ones. We got Bologna at Benfica. I don't really have a lot of comments there. Whatever happens.
They can get a dub here. Benfica's good, but
should they?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
AC Milan hosting Verona at Sveda. If Wogs was here, I'd say watch out for those Eastern European teams. And I believe him. I mean, these are the games Fonseca wants to lose. He only wants to play against the big teams.
You got to win this game if you're Milan. It's going to be tough with no Christian, but if you want to advance in the Champions League, you got to win games. Even though the Eastern European teams are tough, you have to win against these games.
And then last Champions League match, I'll throw it to you.
Manchester City at Juventus. That's going to be a tough one for Juventus. However, Manchester City have been struggling. We do know that they lost like 7 of their last 8 games or something like that. No Rodri. They're really missing him. And Juventus got a plus with Weston McKennie and Douglas Luiz. Both should be in the lineup or at least available to play. So that's 2 guys coming back. But we know that, listen, both of these teams are struggling. So it'll be an interesting match. Hopefully Juventus can get 3 points because Juventus are also, I don't know, like I said, I don't have the Champions League table in front of me, but they are getting to a point where it's getting concerning on if they are going to qualify for the next round of the Champions League.
They're even with points with City right now. So interesting game.
How many points do they both have?
8.
Where are they at?
2, 2, and 1. They're both tied for 17th. 24 teams advanced.
So any team, one of these teams, if one of these teams lose this game, that could be huge for them advancing to the next round.
Yeah, the other thing is we don't know what gets you through yet because this is the first year of this. So we don't even have a barometer of what you need to go through. Moving on, the other European competitions. Europa League, Roma's hosting Braga. I would like to see them get another one done here. You can still win the Europa League, so they gotta get rolling. They can. You don't think so?
They still can because they're not knocked out. I mean, I don't know if they're going to, but
they could.
I don't know if enough top of El Shaarawy and Salamakers is going to get that job done.
I'm a big Salamakers guy, so I don't know. The other Roman team playing Lazio is going to Ajax. That's always a hard battle. Kind of interesting for this Lazio team to go to kind of like these other big European stadiums. I think it's a lot of guys that haven't really felt that pressure before. And then in the Conference League, we got Fiorentina hosting another team that I've never heard of. Lask. Get it done, please.
Yeah, Fiorentina. Fiorentina, every time we cover the Conference League, I'm just going to say Fiorentina-Chelsea final.
Yeah, I think that's all that needs to say. But that wraps up the European competitions midweek. And then at weekend, we got match week number 16. Couple interesting games. Not a ton of crazy ones this weekend, I would say, right?
Yeah, definitely not any crazy ones besides Inter at Lazio is a good game for sure. And then Fiorentina-Bologna as well are the 2 that we think would be the most enjoyable to watch.
Inter-Lazio is interesting to me because Lazio can do this 2 weeks in a row, and it's very different playing Inter and playing Napoli. I'm going to continue to back Inter now in most games. I'm very impressed with them in their ability to play in different ways. But Lazio are good, and I still think this is a learning season for them, and they're going to get better and continue to get better. But they're not at this level yet where they can compete with these kind of teams doing this.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I didn't have Lazio being as high as they are at all this season. So I think they're overachieving, and I think Inter should win this game. However, team like Lazio and Inter being the team that they've been this season, switching off, Lazio can easily get 1 or 2 goals in the snap of the fingers. I'm kind of blanking. Nuno is going to be on DeMarco's side or Dumfries' side when he attacks?
Dumfries.
Okay, so that's a matchup to watch. Those are two just absolute fitness animals going up and down the pitch. However, Nuno's still coming back from an injury, so we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that, but that will be a great matchup to watch.
Yeah, the other game we wanted to pull out here is Fiorentina at Bologna. This is another one for me. Bologna, you're trending in the right direction. I think they can win this game. For Fiorentina, can you go away from home and get 3 points? Because they're kind of in this similar cycle of how good are you guys? You're obviously getting better. Games like this are hard to win. Like going to Bologna and winning the way they're playing is going to be a tough battle. If you want to win Scudetto, these are the kind of games you got to get point.
That's what I was going to say. If you want to win the Scudetto or finish in the top 4, as tough as this game is, this is a game you have to get points out of, right? These are games that Inter, Napoli, Atalanta, Juventus, Milan, maybe not Juventus and Milan this year, but in their past careers as clubs have known to be able to go and win games and get 3 points to allow them to finish in the top 4 so consistently.
Yeah, at the same time, I think Italiano's thinking we can beat Fiorentina. Like they're overachieving.
For sure. Dude, Bologna's been firing on all cylinders, flying high. They played a great game against Juventus. It's Italiano's going back or playing his old team. You know he's going to be motivated for that, wanting to get the boys fired up.
True. I didn't even think about that.
So Bologna are definitely going to be tough to beat and get 3 points too from now on because of how they've been playing and that they've been figuring out how to score goals.
Take us to the rest of the games. We got Torino going to Empoli. Empoli are going to win that game.
Yeah, I agree.
New school Empoli are going to be really good there. Atalanta are going to Cagliari.
4-0.
Atalanta are going to get it done. Napoli at Udinese.
It's a tough game.
About Napoli. I feel good about Napoli.
You got to bounce back if you're Napoli. You can't drop more points.
3 games in a row, that would be losses, if you include Coppa Italia.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just don't see a Conte team doing.
Yeah, agreed.
I think they're going to win. And I'm still not sold on Udinese at all at this point. Venezia is going to Juve. This would be a good one to get the home 3-point monkey off your back.
Yeah, so was the game
Lecce
against Cagliari, and we tied that one. I mean, if you're Juventus, you have to win this game, and you got to go back to those 3-0 wins that you were doing at the start of the season. You cannot scrape by with 3 points on this one, or else the questions are still going to be asked, right? You want to kind of put some of the questions to bed on the lowest team in the league, and you're Juventus. So you need to win and win convincingly.
The other game, big relegation
implications,
here.
Yeah.
Monza at Lecce. Monza's in 17th. Lecce's in 16th, only separated by 3 points. So this goes to show, like, if you lose a game down there, you are in trouble immediately. So that's an interesting one. We also got Verona playing Parma. I feel really good about Parma at home against Verona. That'd be
for sure. I've been saying it all year. I'll say it again. Parma at home is going to be tough to win. And Verona let in so many goals, and Parma score goals.
Yeah. And then we got Roma going to Como. This is going to be an interesting one. The way Como play and the way Roma just played, I think it's going to be a really good matchup.
That'll be a fun game to watch. This is probably the third best game of the week, I'd say, behind Fiorentina, Bologna, and Inter Lazio. This will be a fun game. I mean, maybe Napoli, Udinese, but this will be fun to watch. This should be goals, right? Como tend to score 2 goals a game, or at least a goal a game, and Roma have scored 4 last game, so maybe they figured something out. We'll see how they come out after stumbling upon a lineup that worked.
Yeah, well, I hope another one works. The last game is Genoa at Milan. You would think Milan can get this one done. Genoa have not been very good.
But I'm looking at their form in the last 5. Genoa, 2 wins, 3 draws, 0 losses. So what's his name? Biere? Starting to figure something out, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this is a tough one it's not a tough one for Milan, but Genoa can sneak up on you. But the fact that you're at home and in the San Siro, you cannot drop points.
Fortress. Yeah. Absolute fortress. But that brings us into our last segment for match week number 16.
Colpi di luna.
Colpi. We got to stay hot. We are like
We gotta stay hot.
Like we're ending the pod like we started it with the Colpi. We updated you guys 7-2 in the last 9, 20-24. So we're flirting with 50%. We need to go 2-for-1 minimum to get closer to that 500 record.
I feel good about it. I like the picks.
I like our picks too.
I'm the only one doing plus picks also recently. So I'm the odds booster. So I'll lead with
How
mine.
the hell is that? Is not your pick. That's the first one's your pick. How are they plus?
Yeah.
How were they plus?
That's why I'm picking it.
That's a good.
There's value all over the place. If you look at the Serie A betting slips, nobody thinks anybody's going to win ever. And it's always plus. You can always find one. I got Inter. They also just beat Napoli. Inter at home against Lazio.
No, Inter's away or
No, Inter at Lazio.
That's why they're
Doesn't
plus.
matter to me.
That's why they're plus.
I feel good about Inter. I still think
That's a
they're
good bet.
significantly better than Lazio. And I don't see anybody on Lazio that's capable of stopping Marcus Thuram right now. And I also think Federico DiMarco is a very good matchup on that side of the field. So there's going to be service. I feel really good about it. That one comes in at plus 120. Logan's pick, Parma, Verona over 2.5 at minus 144. Another one that I like. Parma scores a lot of goals. Venezia concedes a lot of goals.
Yeah. Before I say my pick, I like Logan's pick was a pick that I might have picked, but he picked it before me. I just said pick a lot. That was a pick. But so I really like Parma. Like I said, they score a lot, and Verona letting 4 goals a game. It seems like at 37. Let me do the math really quick. 15 games, and they've allowed 37. So that's 2 goals a game, right? And Parma score a ton. But going back to your pick, Lazio are also coming back from the Netherlands. So a lot of travel for Lazio against a tough Ajax team that we know have Champions League level talent. So that is a really good pick. And plus money too makes no sense. I'm shocked that it's good value there. But moving on, my pick is going to be same game, Lazio Inter. I'm sticking with what I've been riding, over 2.5, coming in at minus 110. I've hit 4 overs in a row, 5 of the last 6 overs. Sticking with another one, minus 110. A little bit more value here. I've been taking minus 140, minus 150 picks, but minus 110. Lazio score goals. We know Inter score goals. They both have over 30 this season, so they're both averaging 2 goals a game. So that's what I got. Lazio, Inter over 2.5.
That brings the whole Colpi to plus 470. Pretty good. Another good one. You know how it goes. Bet them single, hit the parlay a little bit.
Yeah, the one annoying part about this Colpi is that mine and Vos' game is Monday, so we're not going to know until Monday if it hits. Last Colpi, mine and Vos' game were on Friday. They both hit, and we had a cash out of what was it? I think Logs bet 50 on it. He had a cash out of like 130, I think, because it's 50 to win 400. So that was a good spot to be in, having a cash out. We're not going to have that this week, but
no, unfortunately, unless Logs hits, who knows?
You won't have.
But that wraps it up for us, guys. We're done. As always, follow us at Culture FC, at Calcio Culture FC, on all of our socials, X, Instagram, TikTok. We're going to get back on there at some point. We've been a little bit busy, get sidetracked. It's on our list to get back on there, get on the Twitter scape and all that. We'll get there. As always, we appreciate your support. And Motts, I'll hand it off to you.
Like, comment, subscribe. Paisanos, do not be a gagoose, and Forza Calcio Culture.